Hello, Year 5 and Year 6. Welcome to your last English lesson live with Mr. Phillips of this week. Regular hashtags, regular Twitter handles this week. Hashtag St. Anne's Live and at St. Anne's Rainhill. Send any of your work in to me at rsa.year6@3-saints.org.uk. Oh, it's been a tough couple of lessons today. Twiddle is just one of many examples of my epic fails today. I was struggling to read the year 1 and the year 2 books. I was trying to read it through my phone. That was a nightmare. In year 3 and the year 4 lesson, I've had people playing guitars outside. I've had the cat running in and out. I think chased by the other cat, so I thought they were going to start fighting. It has just been one of those days where you don't want to be live streaming at the same time as all that happening, but it's fine. We've reached the end of the day. It's the year 5 and the year 6 lesson. We're going to have a chilled one. I've run out of drinks. That's fine. That's okay as well. It's okay. Whew. We're going to have a nice reading lesson. If you've not already, can't find my pen. There it is. If you've not already, make sure you go into the description, click on the link, get yourself an electronic copy of the book that we're reading today, which is The Viper's Daughter. If you've not already signed up for lovereading.co.uk, please make sure you do it for next week, because from next week I'm not going to try and hold the camera up against the text or anything like that. I don't think it's just quite difficult to do. So make sure you got a text. I know on Tuesday loads of you did, which is amazing. Okay, so let's remind ourselves on our 4 sections that we have in our reading lesson. We've got our predict section where we try and guess what do we think is going to happen in the text. We've got our clarify section where we look at, key vocabulary that comes up in the text. We've got our question section where we answer questions that I've set for you and see if you can test your knowledge and your understanding. And then we've got our summary section where we summarize everything that we have looked at. So let's start today with our predict section for Viper's Daughter. All I'm going to do is I've given you the title of Viper's Daughter. I'm going to show you the artwork of the opening page, and I'm going to read to you the very, very first bit of the paragraph, just to help you out a little bit. I'm doing it on my laptop today, so apologise if it's a little bit fuzzier than usual. So, Viper's Daughter, and that's all I'm going to show you artwork-wise. Just that. And look at the font it's in as well. Okay. Then I'm going to read for you the very, very first little bit. And it is just the first few sentences. A bat flitted past Torak as he drew an arrow from his quiver. Wolf raised his muzzle and sniffed the breeze. He glanced at Torak, then into the thicket. There. That's all I'm giving you. That's all I'm going to give you. From that, let's predict what this text is about. We always need to start off with, I predict that. So, I predict that. So let's join a few pieces of the information that we've got. We know Viper's Daughter. The font looks very ancient. That artwork on the front page, it's very much reminiscent of, cave paintings and things like that. And then we meet a character called Torak, who's hunting with a bow and arrow and with a character that I assume is a wolf and is just called Wolf. Because it says he raised his muzzle, which is the bit of the dog and the bit of, that canines have, and sniff the breeze. So I think Wolf is a wolf. I don't think that's a trick. So a wolf and a person called Torak hunting with a bow and arrow sounds very, very Stone Age, early civilization to me. So I think this is going to be a story. I predict there's going to be a story about hunters in prehistoric times. That's my prediction. I predict that this story is about hunters in prehistoric times. And if it's called Viper's daughter, I assume there will be a character called Viper and something will happen to his daughter. Maybe something like she'll get injured on a hunt or she'll go missing or something like that, I imagine. Can you pause the video there? And if you've not done so already, can you write your prediction down? What do you think this text is going to be about? Now we're going to read it. If you've got a copy of it, you've actually been given a really big chunk. The first chapter is quite long. We're not going to read the whole first chapter. We're just reading a small extract of it. Okay? Now, I've learned today, I'm not holding the phone up to the camera. There's no way I'm going to be able to read your book. I could do it just about with the year 1 and the year 2 one, not with yours. So I'm going to read this one to you. Okay? Here we go. Chapter 1, Viper's Daughter. A bat flitted past Torek as he drew an arrow from his quiver. Wolf raised his muzzle and sniffed the breeze. He glanced at Torek, then into the thicket. There. He crept between tangled alders, Torek squelching knee-deep in black water. Wolf's big paws making no sound. Torek picked a hair off a twig. Coarse, reddish-brown. Elk calves are reddish-brown. The calf's mother must have hidden in the thicket while she went to graze. Torek glanced over his shoulder at the lake. Elk can swim deep underwater. She could be anywhere, diving into the bottom to uproot water lilies with her tongue. Wolf froze, paw raised, ears rammed forwards. Dimly through the trees, Torek made out a calf-shaped darkness. The calf whined and wobbled to its feet. It was as tall as a horse. One chop of its front hooves could split his skull. As Torek knocked the arrow to his bow, Wolf gave a warning uff, and the mother elk exploded from the lake in a chaos of white water and flailing hooves. Torek dodged. She cracked a trunk by his head. Wolf leapt and sank his fangs into her pendulous nose. She swung him high. He clung on. Torek couldn't get a clean shot, couldn't risk hitting his pack brother. With a twist and a heave, the elk sent Wolf flying. He hit a tree with a yelp. Torek floundered towards him. Mother and calf had disappeared into the forest. Groggily, Wolf lurched to his feet and wagged his tail. Torek gave a shaky laugh. That was close. Wren would tease him when she heard how he'd nearly been brained by an elk. As he was leaving the thicket, he saw a Willow clan hunting party, 2 women and 2 men, bearing a roebuck quartered carcass. Wolf vanished into the forest, as he did when strangers approached, but Torek put his fist to his chest in friendship. On impulse, he asked if they'd seen his mate. Wren of the Raven clan, he called. She's been to see them, but she's coming back today. One of the men turned, and in the dusk his clan tattoos were stark, 3 willow leaves between his eyes, like a permanent frown. Saw her a couple of days ago, he called back. Long way down river. Oh, then it wasn't her. The ravens were camped upriver. I'll keep going for a little bit. The man's frown became real. I know who I saw. Red hair. Her uncle is Finn Kedin, the Raven leader. Summer before last, she mated with the Spirit Walker, the boy who talks to wolves. That would be you. His eyes narrowed and he touched a bone amulet on his jerkin. Stay away. Looked like she was going on a journey, a woman sneered. She was paddling a canoe, had a pack and a sleeping sack. Torek bristled. Well, then it definitely wasn't her. The woman sniggered. Maybe she's tired of you. Laughing, they went on their way. Tarak was still irritated when he reached camp. It was in darkness, no welcoming firelight, and no wren. Neither Wolf nor his mate Darkfur had returned from the hunt, but the cubs pounced on Tarak, leaping at his chest and whining for food, while the older brother Pebble gave him a distracting greeting. Pebble took his cub-watching duties seriously and rarely relaxed. In the shelter, Tarak found the double sleeping sack as he'd left it, although slightly chewed. He felt a twinge of unease. It was the cloudberry moon, when parts of the river were still choked with salmon, and salmon means bears. Wren said Tarak worried too much about bears. Tarak said she would worry too if her father had been killed by one. But she could look after herself. She was the best shot in the forest with a bow and arrow. She would be annoyed if he went to find her. The wind rose, blowing thistledown in his face like summery snow. The pines stirred restlessly. They knew something was wrong. Tracking was what Tarak did best, and even by starlight he found Wren's 3-day-old trail. To his alarm, it didn't lead towards the valley where her clan was camped, but down to the river, Blackthorn, where he and Wren kept their canoe. The canoe was gone. Drag marks and bent twigs told him that Wren had paddled downriver, just as the Willow Man had said. She was going on a journey. She had a pack and a sleeping sack. This was all wrong. It couldn't be Wren. She would have had to make that gear in secret, scraping and sewing reindeer hides for the sleeping sack, weaving willow wreaths for the pack. She would have had to deceive Tarak for days. No, it couldn't be true. Wren wouldn't do that. She wouldn't leave without a word. But she had. Okay, we're going to leave it there. So, quite a lot to digest there, even though that's only the first half of chapter 1. A lot's happened. So we've got Tarak, we've got Wolf, and we've got the missing character of Wren. Ready for some questions now? We've done our predict. We've not even done our clarify. You can tell I'm not with it today, can't you? Heads all over the place. So, got a couple of words I want you to have a little go at seeing if you can clarify for me. So, first word is flitted. Flitted. Okay, you might say someone flitted around or something like that. Next one is thicket. Going into the thicket, or they spotted the elk through the thicket. And the third one is the word impulse. Impulse. Okay? If you know what any of those words mean, pause the video there and write down your definitions along the side. And then come back to me and see if you were right. Okay? Number 1, flitted. If you're flitting around or something flitted, it means it's moving in a very light way, a very swift and light way. You probably describe the movement of a butterfly as flitting. It's very light, it's very quick, it's very dainty. You know, a butterfly or an insect would flit around. If you're describing a person flitting around, or maybe eyes flitting around, it normally has this connotation of being uneasy or unsure. If someone's flitting around the kitchen, it normally means they don't really 100% know what they're doing or what they're supposed to be doing, or they're trying to look busy. It creates this idea of unease or uncertainty. But generally, it's a movement that's light and swift. So that is flitted. For thicket, thicket is like a thick bunch of thorns and vegetation, okay? It's kind of like overgrown bushes and, going into the thicket. The very thick bushes and branches are the bits of the forest, okay? Normally, thicket is quite difficult to get through, which is why it's Wolf who disappears into the thicket, maybe of brambles or overgrown plants. So thicket is the part of the overgrown forest. And then impulse. Your impulse is your inner desire to do something. If you've got an impulse to do it, it means you've got a natural desire to want to do it. And that could be long term, like you've got an impulse to be, play football. You're like, oh, I really want to do that. Or you could have an impulse in the moment and you just want to do something there and then. And sometimes your natural impulse kicks in before your brain kicks in. And that means sometimes the characters will do stuff before they think it through. So impulse is your natural instinct to do something. Flitted, thicket, and impulse. So hopefully there, at least one of those words is a brand new word that you've learned today, so you can then repeat it and use it in your writing and things like that. Okay? Now on to the questions. Now we're at the actual question bit. I was rushing ahead before. Okay? So we've only got 3 questions today. And what I want you to do is, if you've got a copy of the text, is to keep flitting between that and me to make sure you're getting the answers, okay? Just going to turn the brightness of that down, actually, because I'm getting a bit of a glare on my face there. Okay, question number 1. The first question is, can you find a quote from the text that suggests that the calf is dangerous? Can you find a quote from the text that suggests the calf is dangerous? Okay, so I want a dangerous quote. And sometimes in 5 and 6 we can get distracted a little bit by other quotes that tell us other attributes about the calf, but I want something that tells us it's dangerous. Once you find something, look at it and say, does that actually tell us that it's dangerous? And make sure it refers to the calf, not to Torak, not to the wolf, and not to the parent elk. The calf, the baby elk. Pause the video, see if you can find the answer, and then come back to me. So, a quote that suggests that the calf is dangerous. Well, I know for a fact that the calf only appears right at the beginning of the story, so it's going to have to be in that first part of the text around here. So, I'm going to start at the bottom. Wolf froze, paw raised, ears rammed forwards. Dimly through the trees, Torak made out a calf-shaped darkness. Go up, whoops, come back. Need to go up slightly, because the quote's just missing there. Aha, there you go. The calf whined and wobbled to its feet. Well, that's not very dangerous. It was as tall as a horse. Now, some of you might want that, but being tall doesn't necessarily mean that it's dangerous. One chop of its front hooves could split his skull. Well, I don't know about you, but that sounds pretty dangerous to me. So one chop of its hoof, one flick of its hoof could split his skull. That is definitely dangerous. Now the question is, find a quote which suggests it's dangerous. We're not now going to write it in our own words. We're going to quote it directly. Really, it should be a find and copy question. So I'm going to be working really hard to make sure I copy the quote exactly. So, one chop of its front hooves. I'm going to put my quote marks there. One chop of its front hooves could split his skull. Nice and easy quote there. Could split his skull. There we go. And that is a quote that suggests that the calf is dangerous. If you just had that it was as tall as a horse, that doesn't necessarily mean it's dangerous. We could infer that it's dangerous from that, but that by itself isn't enough. This is a quote that suggests that the calf is dangerous. So always have that critical mind about the evidence that you're presenting. Does it actually show what we're asking for, or is there a quote that's more suitable? Okay, let's look at the next question. The next question is, why didn't Torak shoot an arrow at the elk? Why didn't Torak shoot an arrow at the elf? Again, it'll be on the same kind of page, won't it? Because that's the bit about the elk. So quickly from there, skim and scan through it. Why didn't Torak shoot an arrow at the elf? Number 2. Pause there, write your answer down, and then come back to me, and we'll be able to share our answers. Okay, you ready to come again? Right, let's go. Ooh. Da 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 da. So if we're looking here, why didn't he shoot an arrow. Well, this is where they disappear, and this is where they enter. So it's got to be in here somewhere. So I'm skimming and scanning for the idea of an arrow or shot. Here it is. Torek couldn't get a clean shot. Couldn't risk hitting his pack brother. Now that's difficult because it doesn't actually say anything about arrows and shooting arrows, but I know that a clean shot, it means he's trying to shoot an arrow. And he couldn't risk hitting his pack brother. Well, surely the wolf isn't his brother. So what it must mean by pack brother is in his friend, the person that's part of his tribe, part of his pack. So the reason that Torek didn't want to shoot the elk with an arrow, or didn't try and shoot the elk with an arrow, is because he didn't want to hit Wolf. Because Wolf was, if you remember, had his fangs in the elk's nose. And Torek couldn't get a clean shot where he couldn't guarantee that he wouldn't hit the wolf. So, number 2, why didn't Torek shoot an arrow at the elk? Torek couldn't get a clean shot. I might actually put some quote marks around clean shot. Couldn't get a clean shot and might have hit Wolf. Now, Wolf is his name. It's not just a wolf, it's Wolf is his name, so I'm going to capitalise Wolf. Torek couldn't get a clean shot and might have hit Wolf. That's the reason why he didn't fire his arrows. Ready for the next one? So this time I've given you a bit of a page indicator. It says on page 3, so we all change to page 3. On page 3, why did Torek bristle? Why did Torek bristle? Let's find that in the text first of all. So we go to page 3. Where is it? Skimming and scanning for that phrase. There it is. Torek bristled. Let's read above and below to try and figure out what it means. Looked like she was going on a journey, a woman sneered. She was paddling a canoe, had a pack and a sleeping sack. Torek bristled. Then it definitely wasn't her. The woman shrugged. Maybe she was tired of you. Laughing, they went on their way. Torek was still irritated when he reached camp. So, if you think you can tell me why Torek bristled, yeah, that was the question. Why Torek bristled, then pause video there and write your answer down. Okay, so first of all, what is bristled? If someone bristles, what does that mean? Well, bristles are like something you'd find on a spiky plant, aren't they? So if someone bristles, it means they get annoyed and they get that kind of a spiky look. It's when someone like shoots you a look that you know, oh, they're not happy with me. So if someone bristles, it means they go, oh, they get really angry and really annoyed. Like bristles are poking out of them, you know, stay away from me kind of thing. So why did he bristle? Well, he was bristling because what were the people, the other members of that different clan, what were they suggesting? Well, they were suggesting that Ren had disappeared. Now, we can't say he bristled because they said that she was tired of him, because that didn't happen until afterwards. But they were straight away implying that she had left, because they said, oh yeah, she was paddling away on a canoe and she had a backpack and a sleeping sack. And that made Torek annoyed and bristled. So it's the idea that they were suggesting that Ren had disappeared. By the end of this extract, we know that's true. But to begin with, Torek is very, very maybe naive and a bit defensive of the fact that Ren would not have disappeared. So he bristles because the other clans suggest that she's disappeared or ran off, left on purpose because she's taken a sack and a sleeping bag and stuff like that. He bristles because the other clans suggest she's left him. that instantly gets him annoyed and makes him put up those metaphorical bristles and sharp stay away spines out of him. Okay, well done if you got that one. That one's really, really tricky. You got to know quite a few different things to be able to get that one. Okay, now I can't remember if I said you had 3 questions, but if I did, I lied. You have 4 questions. Your last one is, why does Torek suspect something is wrong with Ren? What are the different things that make Torek think that something is wrong with Ren? Okay, let's see if you can come up with 2. Now, I'm going to rub off these answers in a sec. Now, we know that this doesn't happen until a little bit later in the text, possibly the last page of the extract, because at this point, when he was talking to the other clan members, he's still very defensive and very dismissive of the fact that she disappears. But later on, there start to be certain things that suggest that something is wrong. So pause there and see if you can find those things. Write them down on your piece of paper and then come back to me. Okay, so there's a multitude of answers that you could have had here, and you just need 2. The first one that I think appears in the text, the first thing that starts playing on his mind, really, is there's no fire. There's no fire and no Ren when he arrives back. He expected the camp to be, to have a fire lit for when he arrived back, but there was no fire. So he suspects something might be wrong there. We could also say he suspects something wrong because Ren is dismissive about bears. It's the time of the year, Torek says, where bears are in the forest because the rivers are full of salmon. And Ren says that he worries too much. And Torek says, well, you would worry if your dad was eaten by a bear, which obviously is what happened to Torek. So one thing that makes Torek think there's something wrong is that Ren is dismissive about bears, and it's that time of the year. The next thing that we could have is, I'm going to write over here, the weather is acting unusual. Torek says that the pine stirred restlessly and that they knew something was wrong. So the weather behaving strangely is another sign that points Torek to realizing something's wrong. Then there's the more obvious ones. For example, Torek finds the canoe gone and drag marks. They're probably the same answer, that, aren't they? We speak a lot about in year 6 about what is technically the same answer, and drag marks on the ground. So I would say those are your 4 main ideas. You might have found some different ones, that's okay. If you send me your work, I'll be able to check them for you. But why does Torek suspect something is wrong? Well, there's no fire and no Ren. Ren has been dismissive about the bears. The weather is acting unusual. Torek finds the canoe gone and drag marks on the ground. Those are some different options. See if you can get 2. Doesn't matter if these are the ones you came up with. See if you can get 2 written down. Okay. Well done. So we have done our predict, we have done our clarify, we have read the text, we have answered 4 questions, and now it's time for our summary section. And for this one, I'm going to leave a nice artistic task for you to do. What I'd like you to do is I'd like you to draw a picture of the moment in the text that you think is the most important. Is it Torek discovering that the canoe is gone? Is it Torek getting the information from the other tribes people? Is it Torek and Wolf fighting the elk? I want you to have a go at drawing the picture that you think is the most important moment. And it's not a test of your drawing skills. It's a test of what do you think the most important moment of the text is. Thank you so much for joining us again today. It's been lovely to have a bit of a calmer session. No guitars, no technical issues, no cats running in and out. Perfect. Stumbled a few times, lost track of everything, but that's okay. It's the end of Thursday, and that's the way we expect it to be. Don't forget, please send me your work. rsa.year6@3-saints.org.uk. Remember, there's no online English lessons tomorrow. Friday's our day off, and I will see you guys 2:30 here on the YouTube channel on Monday afternoon for your next writing lesson. See you later, guys. Have a lovely weekend. Bye.